Hello, Fran. Hey, Betsy. How are you? What? Said, how are you? Good. How are you? Okay. Good.
Well, I figured out that was I know. Looking at the grid on my wall. I don't have to be at my thing for 35 minutes. I'll stand here with the hot water in my shoulder for 4 hours.
No, you're good. Okay.
You guys get everything, especially with the stone there. I can't
You got your stuff already. We got it for the,
Not much you can do. Okay.
you want to make Stewie cry.
Was the drive too much for you?
You want us to move in, so it's on the end?
No, thank you. You look good right here. Your boyfriend's upset.
You leave my boyfriend alone.
How dare you?
Yeah. Oh, it's a well-educated bunch on that board. They're well educated. Next education. They know what they're talking about.
I work at Trenton too, so I went up there was a time when
Well, that was a long one.
and whatever supplies they need to purchase, I'll work on it. Now, good day. Hey,
It's not small.
yeah. Don't speak too soon. Hi. Don't speak too soon.
It's organization. I'm almost afraid to look at the weather forecast these days.
What's that?
I'm almost afraid to look at the weather.
Oh my God, I know. Oh yeah? Cool. How are you?
That's fun. I love the picture there.
Yeah.
Or her, I read it, retained it.
Just the fact that
Oh, just love this one. It's just, it's no back. Can't get rid of it.
that was
Oh yeah, I can make this spread. Prior to snow.
bottom up.
If you ever see the price,
Money from her pocket, so to speak. January 29th, that didn't even tell the customer.
Congratulations.
Thanks. You go?
Can you give me one, please? Thank you. Are you going to be there Saturday night? No, I'm going to be out of town.
What's wrong?
I know.
You don't?
No, every year I'm
What about it?
and I know
Yeah.
Oh, you might have to do that.
The most one you have equals on probably.
Oh, the Raptors, have you been to that before? That's why I'm. Yeah.
Which is just out there watching grass grow, literally. Painful, but at least you can go quick. Yeah, like that, I know that, yeah.
I got this. I got a sheet
My daughter works in these, she's starting to discovery museums, and be careful, you know.
Okay.
So she's on her Facebook every, you know, she's always like, we have a big giant owl or something there.
It only took them 10 minutes.
I'll bring those things home. Pays a lot.
It's still they're the same one. Told I don't need any. I'm all good. Innovation, not rejection.
Where was that?
Take a check.
The management, like, this or is it the?
What's something that really deforms and gets scar tissue?
Oh.
And I have sleep plans so far. Two more on the,
It's not just perfect long.
basically catering to the needs of.
You know they called me
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is called pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of March 9th, 2015 was included in the list of notices sent to the Central Record, Burlington County Times, and Courier Post, posted on the bulletin board in Town Hall, and has remained continuously posted as required notices under the statute. In addition, a copy of this notice has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. Roll call, Mr. Barton.
Present.
Mr. Franzen.
Here.
Mr. Lee.
Here.
Mr. Yates.
Mr. Yates called me this afternoon and something came up and he's unable to attend this evening.
Thank you. Mayor Brown.
Yeah, here. Okay, this time I'll open public comment to agenda items only. If you have something to ask about any item that's on the agenda, please raise your hand and I acknowledge you for it in the center here. Sorry. And state your name and address.
Good evening, Stuart Brooks, Rosemary Road. I have a question regarding an item that's attached on the bill list. On the last page, there's two voided checks. One number 5429, Tabernacle Fire Company number 1 for $62,980. What's that about? And what's that about?
That was the first quarter payment, which Mrs. Berger questioned last meeting. We took off the bill list 1 or 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So we have to show that we canceled the check.
Okay, very good, thank you. And I also have a question about Resolution 2015-52. And Doug, this is probably yours as well. This is the emergency appropriations. Road and salt is pretty clear. Heavy equipment repair, could you explain what that is? And could you explain the next one, emergency management OE for $2,000?
Heavy equipment repair actually should be truck or motor vehicle repair. The number is right, the title is wrong.
Okay. What is it about the motor vehicles that needed repairs?
Well, we've had an ongoing, if you'll look in the last few bill lists, you'll see there's a number of truck repairs
Right.
for the fleet that we've been using for snow removal. So we've overspent the temporary budget in that, and this is how we get the money back into the account.
Okay, thank you. And the other one, the smaller one for $2,000, what's that about?
He had, emergency management had overspent their temporary budget, probably due to the storms. And it's one way that we dedicate the money to put in there that we have to include it in our budget once we pass our budget.
Any idea what it was that they overspent on? We're talking meals, we're talking training, we're talking...
It's on the bills.
I'm going to say it's a combination of all of those.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Pembroke Sports Meadow Road. On the bill list, you have a payment of $220 to the Tabernacle Rescue Squad for the GIF safety reimbursement. What is the GIF safety reimbursement specifically for?
They used theirs, I believe, for safety gloves.
That's it? Okay. And because we pay the TRS's GIF insurance, why are we reimbursing them for?
We've always divided the grant that JIF gives us between the squad, and the next year coming up, we'll divide it between the fire company, the squad, public works.
So, in other words, if that's above the $70,000 that we allocate to the squad?
It's a safety grant from the JIF. We divide it between all the parties that are part of the JIF.
Okay, but I guess what I'm asking, it's above the $70,000 allocation that the township makes to the squad.
It's not in the same block of money. It's a grant versus a budgeted item.
Okay, thank you. And at the last meeting, there were a couple of bills that were authorized by the committee regarding training. One was CPR training and one was equine rescue training. And regarding that, there were 19, regarding the CPR training, there were 19 Pineland CERT members that went through the program or the training. 15 of them aren't Tabernacle residents. They come from Washington, Woodland, Medford, Mount Laurel, Chemung, Southampton, and some of them obviously are townships. Why are they going to be paying for their own? Why are we picking up the cost of the training for CERT members who are not residents of Tabernacle?
Because they serve the Tabernacle residents, they belong to the Pineland CERT. Training has always been handled by Tabernacle. It's a minimal cost. The other communities contribute in other manners, depending on what it is.
And so we don't get compensated. So Tabernacle residents pick up the cost for non-Tabernacle residents who participate in the
You
CERT.
pick up the cost for a Pineland CERT team who serves this community.
But they also service their own communities.
And when there's specifics that they don't, that when they go to each town, there's other costs for the specific situation, whether it be food, go with the American Red Cross. So they are Pineland CERT member who serve the community. They come and do their volunteer work here. Most of these people have worked on our parades, worked on our emergency situations here. You know, it's the same as when, I guess it's not the same, so I'll leave it alone.
Okay, and does that explanation also go for the CPR training course? Because there were 20 people there, well, the equine was 20, the CPR was 19, and that had, all but 4 were from outside the township.
Franson.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion to approve the bills?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Roll call?
Mr. Barton.
Yes.
Mr. Franson.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes. Resolution 2015-50, approving raffle license for the Church of the Holy Eucharist.
So moved.
I will second that. Peter, this is a resolution that requires the doctrine of necessity.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Barton, as we do regularly on this committee, and I repeat myself so the public understands, that the law disfavors local bodies not being able to take action on local ministerial issues. And such in a case where this would conflict out the majority of the board and we would have a quorum to take action, we invoke the doctrine of necessity and waive that conflict in favor of the local action.
Thank you.
I can vouch for Mr. Barton. Mass last night.
Any questions or comments? Roll call?
Mr. Barton.
Yes.
Mr. Franson.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes. Resolution 2015-51, approving the license for the Seneca Eagles Fan Parent Association. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call?
Mr. Barton.
Yes.
Mr. Franson.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes. Resolution 2015-52, approving emergency temporary appropriations. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Barton.
Yes.
Mr. Franson.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to open the floor to public comment. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Please ask your questions. We'll take note of them. We will answer them when we do our committee report, if possible. If not, you can check back with us, review it, and you can get the answers at the next meeting when they're available. Public comment? Yes.
My name is Tim Jones, I'm 16 Winston Lake. First of all, regarding public works, you guys do great. And anybody that says anything else ought to go to Medford and see how they don't do it right. Second issue, or another issue, well, school lights. Oh, they're still on. The question I would have is, has anybody considered finding a way to turn a remote manual operation over to the school board? Since they're the ones that know who's there and who's not, when kids are going to be around and when they're not. Has anybody even talked to the school board about it? And I would suggest that might be something to do, because they really do know what's going on. And if you program them, as you said before, the program changes from one week to the next, depending on snow days, kids after school for athletics or whatever. So kind of make a suggestion that please consider that as part of the solution. And the third one is a little bit different. Do we have any idea how many houses are registered under the abandoned ordinance, unoccupied?
We have a lot.
Okay.
I could probably put something out.
You need to wait till after.
Yeah, that's okay. It's a question, I'm kind of curious. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Mr. Brooks?
Fran Brooks, Moores Meadow Road. As you know, I'm concerned that some Tabernacle taxpayers have their property assessed as Q Farm when it isn't farmland. These people are escaping their tax obligations while others are paying more than their fair share. The Crown Castle cell tower site was assessed a Q Farm or assigned zero land value for about 11 years, despite the fact that it was a valuable cell tower site not a farm. This cost taxpayers about $15,000 each year from at least 2001 to 2011. The township's lawsuit to recoup 2010 and 2011 tax revenues was decided on October 6, 2014. It wasn't an ordinary tax appeal, as Mr. Lang implied, and I would hope that you would respond to the questions that I have in your committee report today, since it's still a pretty recent decision. I'd like to know, one, why hasn't Mr. Lang reported on this case like he did the Brick Q Farm case? Two, why was this site assessed as Q Farm for a decade without anyone correcting the error? Three, how could multiple construction permits be issued for the tower over the decade without any site inspection and correction of the assessment? Four, what is the administrative oversight on the process by which construction permits should become a corrected assessment? Five, how much tax revenue have we actually lost? And six, the case tried to recoup about $32,000 from 2010 and 2011. The case hinged on whether the cell tower had been assessed, which was unclear from the tax records. Why wasn't the prior tax assessor asked or subpoenaed to explain his records? Without his explanation, the township had no case, which is exactly what happened. Seven, why did we spend $16,000 on legal fees, plus all the associated costs, if you weren't going to call the key witness, the prior tax assessor? And eight, what steps is the township taking to ensure that only qualified farmland is assessed as Q Farm? And I'd be happy to repeat these questions if you need me to. I look forward to answers in the committee report, since it's such a recent decision. Thank you.
1 second.
Sure.
Mr. Lang reporting, State Farm without checking. How much did the township lose? Why we pay $16,000? What else is there? You're speaking much faster than I was writing.
That's okay.
Frank,
Why he doesn't report?
You have a copy of that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Why was the site assessed as Q Farm for a decade without anyone correcting the error? How could multiple construction permits be issued for the tower over the decade without any site inspection and correction of the assessment? Four, what is the
1
administrative...
second.
Okay, go ahead. I'll wait. Four, what is the administrative oversight on the process by which construction permits should become a corrected assessment? Five, are you ready? How much tax revenue have we actually lost? Six is a little bit longer, Kim. The case tried to recoup about $32,000 from 2010 and 2011. The case hinged on whether the cell tower had been assessed, which was unclear from the tax records. Why wasn't the prior tax assessor asked or subpoenaed to explain his records? Without his explanation, the township had no case, which is exactly what happened because it was dismissed by summary judgment. It was decided by summary judgment. And seven, why did we spend $16,000 on legal fees plus associated costs if you weren't going to call the key witness, the prior assessor? And eight, what steps is the township taking to ensure that only qualified farmland is assessed as Q Farm?
Thank
Okay?
you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. At the last meeting, I think you were waiting for Mr. Lang to answer questions about the contract between the new fire company and how that differed from the contract with the old fire district. That prior contract had a term that required a payment of about $24,900 to the fire company. Is the township going to be making a similar payment to the new fire company? If so, how much? And under what contract term? At the last meeting, The committee authorized reimbursement to the new fire company. Is there a contract that authorizes those payments? Is there a budget line item that authorizes the payment or receipt of those payments? 3, I understand the fire company is renting the fire station out to others for events for a profit, or as a revenue, as a revenue maker. Does the contract allow for this kind of use of the firehouse? Does the fire company have the appropriate insurance for this? Does the township have the appropriate insurance for this? Who receives that rental money? Is it the township? Is it the fire company? Last, now that the new budget has been introduced, will the worksheets be available? And is it possible to have them posted online, which would make them more accessible to everyone, and it would probably cut down on OPA requests as well? Thank you.
Any public comment? Yes. Almost didn't see you there.
Hi, Jason Lidowitz, I have Horse Record, just a public service announcement, not this coming weekend, but the following. Santa Fe is hosting their annual robotics competition. As you may recall, Mr. Barton enjoyed his time there quite a bit last year. It is free for everyone to attend, recommend it highly. I will be there as a robot inspector, not officially associated with any given team. But I would highly recommend anybody who has even the slightest amount of interest in it, or has kids or grandkids of teenage or tween or adolescent years, bring them along. It'll be a lot of fun.
Would that be the 20th?
Yeah, I think Friday, maybe the 20th. That Saturday and Sunday is the competition. Saturday is all day. Sunday usually ends early afternoon.
I'm a good duty robot inspector.
It's interesting.
Any other public comment? Seeing none. Oh, yep.
My name is Sean Judy. Live in Woodland Township, Route 563.
You're maybe down the street.
No, I actually I own a piece of property on Goose Pond Road. That's where I grew up. And I wrote you guys a letter back in January about a joining lot to mine, which is actually owned by the township. I just kind of wanted to know what you guys' response was.
Is there any other comments about that?
Comments?
Questions that way when we answer, we can do it all at one shot.
Okay, I own a 17-acre wood lot, which is actually connected to the one the township owns. My family lived there since the early 70s, prior to the Pinelands, and I filed an application with the Pinelands for a single-family dwelling, which was recently approved. And so hopefully I'm going to be putting up a house for my family there. And fortunately, like with the Cultural Exemption Act, I was able to put a house there, but if it would have been somebody else who had owned it after Pinelands, then they would not have been able to do that. The block that the township owns is basically borders the property that I own and the property that my parents used to own. And then it also borders Wharton State Forest. So it's kind of landlocked in there. And it would really, it would fit nice with what I'm trying to do. And I don't think it really would be beneficial to anybody else because, part of what I had to agree to with the Pinelands Commission was to deed restrict the rest of my property. So technically nobody really would ever be able to access it, or I wouldn't even be able to grant an easement to somebody else if they ever. Besides that, actually looking at it, there would never be a place on that parcel where you could have 300 foot from wetlands. So really it's almost, I don't want to say useless, but useless to anybody else. Okay, so, all right.
Sean, do you have any PDCs on that?
There are PDCs on the property that the township owns.
But none of your stuff has PDCs attached.
I have PDCs. I have a quarter credit, which actually is going to be severed with the whole building the house, I believe. That's actually going to be part of what I agreed to with the Pinelands.
Okay. Do you have a time frame?
Hoping to maybe be in there or close to in there by this time next year.
Does the purchase of the township piece
That's not contingent.
That doesn't affect me. Fortunately, you know, I can go forth with what I have now and put my house up. This is just something that would make my property a little larger. You know, it's just something I always wanted to do, connect and make a nice square. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you very much.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Doug, do you want to start?
Okay. Well, my first question was how Mr. Judy's lot was on my report.
Well, I know we talked about that.
What you were considering, I believe there's a quarter credit with ours. The combination, we could sever that if we wanted to. I'll talk to Jay about where we are. There are 3 other small lots that are attached to that Mr. Judy may still be interested in
Yes, sir.
purchasing. We would have to, if I remember correctly, we would have to order them to constituent landowners as a point of sale. But that's where we're at. But my next step would be to contact Jay and see about severing the credit, so we'd have that available to sell later.
When you do that, could you give us an idea of what the property is assessed at, and what kind of money we're talking about, and how much would that be returned to the tax holders? Tax on that is right now.
I can do that.
Obviously now there's no tax being paid. I'm curious about what would be paid if we did indeed sell it to Mr. Judy or another person.
So would you bank that credit? Is that how that would work?
That's what I would probably recommend, but I want to talk to Jay, since he's had some background in this.
The value for quarter credits, 80,
I'll say it's about 9,000.
8,900. 85 right as
Okay.
of last week.
So that was my first. The other one I have is, I'd asked at the last meeting to consider who you want for an auditor to do the final audit on the fire district. Robin Verso from Verso and Stewart had done it, and he had given a price of $3,400 to do the final. Holman, Freddie, and Allison had given a price of $45. They have some initial startup that would run a little more money to do that, and that's the 2 I have.
I would generally be in favor of a different auditor looking over the books. I don't know how the rest of the committee feels, but I think it just makes good accounting sense to have somebody different look at the books that have been maintained by the other company. Although the $1,100 difference is a little steep, but in this case, I think it's worth it to have another company look at it. Would be my thoughts on it.
Anybody else have any comments?
I'm okay with either or the auditor. I would hope that ethically they're registered and should be able to do the job. But I understand your point, Rick.
Yeah, I agree with you, Joe. It just feels better if you have somebody else look at it. You're right.
I see both sides.
Yeah.
I do too.
All right, well,
I'm good either way, man.
all right, someone needs to make a motion then, so we can get this going.
I'll make a motion that we hire Holman Frenier to do this audit.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Barton.
Yes.
Mr. Franzen.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Okay. First thing I have is a reminder that the JIP seminar is this Wednesday, 5:30. Mr. Barton, you've signed up. Kim, you've signed up. Rick signed up, and I'm going. So it's the 4. It gets us the maximum deduction that we can get off the mail charges to the JIF, so that's. that
Doug,
means-
where is it again?
It's at Charlie's other brother.
That's the one off of 206?
Yeah.
On 537?
Yeah.
537.
Have a new sign.
You've been there.
Yeah, I've been there several times.
It looks different though.
And it
What
started
time is that?
5:30, seminar starts at 6, signing starts at 5:30.
I have snow down.
Safety.
My spot.
Love it.
I think they're both at the same time, as a matter of fact.
Okay, next thing I have is, before you tonight is the final specs for the fire truck, and inside there is also a list, the updated equipment list, which is slightly different than the one that the commissioners had, I thought passed along last year. And there's also a letter from the chief in there talking about ways that we can save some money on purchasing some of the equipment, some of the, I think there's some show specials in that they've looked at into other years' mobile equipment that may be available this year. Final price is in there. There's also a couple different options on payment and the savings for offering that. The final price is $561,832. There's a couple different options for varying deductions. Leaning toward option 4. They'll give me a timetable when we could prepay the chassis once it's before the completion of it. That saves us $9,239. And still gives us leverage on the rest of the truck that it gets finished. I'm hesitant to do the 100% prepayment. I just don't have any leverage, I would think, to move it along to get it built in time. I'm not saying we would never build it, but I think prepaying the chassis is the optimal deduction we can get where we still have leverage to feel comfortable with getting the truck completed.
What's the fire commission done historically, any idea, in terms of that?
I think they did some prepayment in previous years on the Pierce. I think they may have prepaid the chassis, but I'm not 100% sure of that. I'd have to go back in the records and look. But I think there was some prepayment. Most fire apparatus manufacturers offer some kind of discount for payment under certain time frames.
Is it ready? Did you prepay the chassis or the whole truck?
If I'm not mistaken, they took the loan out and paid the whole truck off, and then paid back the loan,
You prepaid the entire truck?
as far as I know.
Okay.
Yes. You had a 7-year, well, it was a 7-year lease purchase.
Okay. So they paid up front and then lease
Yes.
purchase afterwards. It's a consideration. They will give us a little leeway, and we're not signing the contract as of yet. So if there's some thought change on that or direction, I appreciate contacting me and talking about it.
This equipment piece that was part of the packet,
It will not be purchased with the truck, and it's all purchased separately.
but it's not all for this, it's not all for the truck.
Yeah,
It is?
yeah.
Okay.
You're basically equipping a truck to meet FLPA requirements for a Class A pump.
And they're required to have 2 thermal imaging cameras in the same truck?
That's out there as an option, yeah, they would have both. They would put it on both
That's
trucks.
part of the spec?
That's part of the equipment list that's a request, yeah.
No, I understand it's part of your request, but they mandate for 2 thermal imaging cameras in the
They
same
at
truck?
least, mandate, I think for one, but let me,
There's no mandate for thermal imaging, just for our and the public safety that we put them cameras on.
Okay,
If I can explain a little bit, on the truck crew, which is
we gotta, yeah, we gotta get
I'm
that.
telling her that Chief Smith.
the ladder truck, normally crews split, but one goes through the roof. One will open up, meaning open up the windows and doors and stuff. With the engine crews, the crews can get split. We have one camera, and like today, if anything happened on the engine we have, one crew gets a camera, the other one doesn't have a camera. That's what's behind the thought of two on the engine.
Okay.
Do we have an estimate about what this is going to cost? Because I have to pay it.
if you'll give me a motion tonight to authorize us to enter into an interlocal cooperative purchasing agreement with the Houston Galveston Consortium, according to New Jersey Statute 48-11, then this will be the price.
That's the truck plate. What about all this? Is this,
That we will quote and go with the lowest quote.
we have an idea what this estimate is?
The estimate on the previous one was around 110,000.
It was 109 something.
Okay. So that was the estimate.
We didn't have, we didn't have SCBA's on that, on the old list. That's probably, actually I have a quote for that. New Jersey state contract's like 49,000 just for the SCBA's on the new truck.
And we anticipate you buying new because the life expectancy of the ones they have are running out
17.
in 17, so. I think in the previous 2 years ago, they thought they were using their existing because they still had 3 years or 4 years left on it.
But the idea is that some of this equipment can be bought at Wildwood and in Harrisburg, is that the thought?
Some of it, yes.
Some of it's even listed as Lowe's and Sears.
Well, that's what I was trying to, yeah, I saw that too.
We talked about some of the stuff that, you know, a shovel's a shovel.
But I guess my question is, I mean, like there's two different steel saws, and there's a pole saw and a regular chainsaw. What's the thought, I mean, we want to bid this, but how do you want to, what's your thought about how we're going to get the equipment, I guess?
We'll be gathering it probably over the year while the truck is being built and store it until the truck arrives.
So do you bid each item individually?
We'll quote each item. We'll probably, some of them could be quoted as a group, like some of the adapters and all that, you probably had put them as a group. Saws, you could do both together. You'll get competitive quotes on all that.
So as long as it's underneath of what the bond was, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Doug, some of these items look like they may have a date sensitivity to them, so they would be purchased at the latest date possible?
Yes, yeah.
So they're not...
So they're not aging in process yet.
Okay.
Are there any additional questions?
No, I had a question for the chief, if I may. Is this your truck, your what, chief? Everybody's in agreement, this is where we're going?
Yes, sir.
This takes care of all your needs?
Yes.
Is there a motion to enter into what, or Doug has requested the Houston Galveston?
Yeah, I'll make a motion for the Rosenbauer 4,000 chassis at $561,000.
Oh, we're not buying a truck.
We're not authorizing to purchase the truck, I'm just authorizing to get our agreement in place with Houston Galveston.
So we
Then
can
I'll be
move
back
forward in the
at,
future.
Joe's ready to go. I'm with him. I'm just ready to second.
But you have to go, put the cart, you can't put the cart before the horse, you have to get the horse, so you have to get into Houston Galveston
Too much
first.
red
and
tape.
then
You
the
make
rest.
the motion.
Right.
Let's cover all the bases in one
I'll make the
motion.
motion, we go into an agreement with Houston Galveston.
Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Thank you. Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes.
Good. Go back to the questions from last meeting. No, let me start with last meeting. Mr. Brooks, your question concerning the numbers that were given for the rescue squad for care numbers. They were in the last year audit as a paragraph, not a particular line item. I've talked to the auditor, I've talked to the squad. They will be part of this year's audit to verify those numbers.
The question I asked was, what were those numbers?
I gave you those numbers in the report.
Well, I mean, I know what the number is. It's a 5-digit number. I know the number. But what does it represent?
It represents the...
Or what does it describe?
It describes the amount that was written off.
It's the amount that was the balance, would have been
The
balance billed
It's the balance bill amount.
had they balanced billed.
Yeah, I mean, the number was 47,046, 47,046. And I asked if those monies related to services provided only to Tabernacle residents.
Tabernacle residents and indigent care, people without insurance.
Tabernacle
But they would be
residents without
Tabernacle
insurance?
Tabernacle residents. Should be just Tabernacle residents.
Just Tabernacle residents. Okay, and I'm sorry, could you repeat what you said about the, because I also asked if it was an audited number.
You asked who certified the number, and the number comes from the billing company. And the auditor in last year's audit mentioned that that was in there. There's a typo in the report. It said Chemung residents, not Tabernacle residents, but it should be Tabernacle residents in there. And I've talked to the auditor and talked to the rescue squad, and that will be part of this year's audit, that number is verified.
Okay, thank you.
And Fran, all your questions concerning the CPR courses and all that, and I assume when you got your Oprah request the documents in your conversation today that you've gotten all the answers that you needed, right?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Mr. Jones. Yes, we will talk to the school board about taking over the construction. Let me explain where we are right now, just so you know why it hasn't been a perfect, we're trying. We went to the manufacturer. We seem to have a problem with the control unit itself. That's been on back order since our last conversation, about a week after our last conversation. We've been handling it manually. We turn it on in the morning and turn it off in the afternoon. Sometimes it's a little early because I really don't want to sit here till 4:45 when I have a chance to get out and get some sleep after plowing snow all over. So we've been working on that. We also have a situation that we've found out during us taking care of this, that we think there's an issue with the solar panel not charging the batteries, because the batteries are going down in a 5 to 8 day period, whether there's sunlight or not. It says it's charging. We're pulling the batteries out. Like today, you had no lights this morning because we had to pull the batteries out because the batteries were dead. They should have been working tonight, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't turn them off yet. So if the control unit didn't do it, and it does it intermittently, that's the other issue we have. They may still be on, but I'll check them before I go home tonight. I'm not going to talk to
We
any.
should have Jay at the next meeting.
I'm not going to talk to any of the farm ancestors.
You can address that, yeah.
at this time.
Is there anything?
Did I miss anybody?
The other side. No, I can't read that.
Okay. You want to do that? Dollar amounts in the budget. No, it's more.
Yeah, it's different because they're taking this.
That's all I have for tonight.
All right, thank you. Did you?
Okay. With respect to Fran's questions about Crown Castle, the judge's decision did not end the case. And so the case is ongoing, and I'll be happy to respond to those questions and concerns at the appropriate time. With respect to Mr. Brooks's question about the contract, I believe that the contract, when compared to the original contract that existed between the township and the fire district, that in fact it is very, very similar and otherwise speaks for itself. I don't really know what to say other than the contract does speak for itself. I think it's pretty clear. And I did go back and look at the old contract and believe that my comment was a fair and accurate comment, that it is essentially the same exact agreement. With respect to, I think that responds to the questions from the citizen. I will mention to the committee as part of my report that given the weather yesterday and today, we are contacting Pagliuso to remind them of their representations with respect to Bud Court as we now move into a time period where we would expect them to be performing. And so we are following up with that just to make sure that they understand the committee's seriousness with respect to that issue at this point in time. And then I would report also, if I had not done at the prior meeting, that the Medford Park ordinance has been certified by the Pinelands and the Medford Park process, and that ordinance process is now complete. And so that's all I have for now.
Just a quick question. When are the budget worksheets going to be available?
We will talk to the auditor and then have a decision on that shortly.
Okay. Just want to make sure covered it.
It'll be well before the public hearing.
On the 13th of April. That's the
Yes.
public hearing.
The public hearing. It'll be
Can they be
well-
posted online?
If we can get it done, we will try to post it online.
Very good, thank you.
Committee report, Joe?
Yeah, Mayor, the only thing I had to report is a follow-up to Justin, or Mr. Litowitz talking about the science thing that's coming up on the 21st and 22nd. I understand that Thursday, the Seneca High School, the Tabernacle PTA is having a basketball game with the Wizards, which are...
Wednesday.
Is it Wednesday? Great, so it's Wednesday, not Thursday, with the Wizards, and they're kind of like, I guess, a minor league Globetrotter team, so if you need something to do Wednesday night, bring the family out and watch some fun basketball and support the PTA. That's all I had, Kim.
Are you gonna play?
Yeah.
I would go if you're gonna play. I mean, I'll make go anyway. How are we doing on salt? I meant to ask that during reports.
We did not run out during this storm. I have a very limited quantity, but I did get 44 tons delivered today, so I have another 300 ton on order, so.
I was in a neighboring town last night having dinner, and the owner of the restaurant came over and said that they just gotten a reverse 911 call from that particular town to say that they were out of salt. They had tried numerous times to try to buy salt. They couldn't buy salt, and the residents were on their own this morning going to work. And it may be another reminder of how proud all of us are with the efforts that the Public Works Department makes to get not only the roads done, but it goes a little bit beyond that, because somebody's got to be quarterbacking this this whole thing and paying attention to the weather and temperatures and knowing kind of when we bring the guys in, and when to salt and when to brine, so there's a lot to it. But I wanted to just say thanks, Doug, for your efforts in getting us through this winter, specifically in managing the salt supply and the guys, and keeping the trucks together with whatever we can. And it definitely is something we're very, very proud of. I just wanted to say congratulations on, I'm ready for spring. I'm done with winter, so I'm kind of moved on. But again, thank you very much for your efforts this winter in getting us to where we have to go safely, and all of our residents. Thank you. Mayor, that's all I got.
Thank you, and I'd just like to say I couldn't do it without the support and the dedication and the manpower and my part-time help and my full-time help and the support I get from the committee to move this effort through the winter. So thank you, too.
I guess you're going to get your new trucks, though. Sounds like to me. I was going to say pretty much the same thing Stephen did, so I'll just say ditto to that. And, you know, one quick thing along those lines, if you leave Tabernacle Township at Powell Place Road, and it becomes Friendship Road, I believe, if anybody in the room has traversed that in the last 3 or 4 days, you can really see the difference between how 2 different townships are able to handle these situations. In the other township, there's actually a line of barriers down the middle of the road, and you can't go on one side of the road because it's potholed and filled with water and ice and everything. And, you know, it's obvious where Tabernacle begins and this other township also begins, because our part of Powell Place Road is perfect, it's clear. But when you get down further, it's like all potholes and it's just a terrible mess. So, you know, I wanted to point that out and really say once again that, as Stephen did, you know, that nice job, Doug. That's all I want to say.
Okay, and I basically want to say exactly the same thing. And although I have to say it was very, very difficult what Doug had to do when he had neighboring towns calling, asking for salt and having to turn them down because we had such a limited supply. He had the utmost concern for the residents and unfortunately had to say no. But, you know, he did what he had to do, and as I'm sure we all stand behind him doing that, because our residents travel safely, and I've heard from so many residents to pass on thank you to you and the Public Works for doing such a great job of making sure the roads are clear, and they always say, we know where Tabernacle ends.
I will pass on the park, and I'm sure they appreciate it.
The fact that we had salt yesterday and other neighboring towns did not, says a lot about how we manage.
He manages it, absolutely.
And that's a challenge in itself.
It is, it's,
It really
you know,
is. It's a team effort, he's right.
absolutely. So with that, I have nothing else, so motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
So the noise on my phone.
How you doing?
I think it's better than it was first. So we step by step there.
That's all. That's not gonna be hard. There you go.
Boys, bring the salt.
Salt shaker. Hey, you know you're close to the ball.
Well, I know it popped out.
Hey, how you doing?